Hey man, y'all know what it is, man. Life in the pen, hashtag prison talk, hashtag in and out.
Yeah.
Y'all know, I always try to bring other stories to you, you know what I'm saying, especially stories of brothers that's been through a lot, in and out of prison, you know what I'm saying? That's why I say in and out, and
Right.
the productiveness that they got going on in their life right now and the struggles that they overcame. So, I try to give y'all all that. This my man, this Willie Lumpkin right here, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let him go ahead and introduce himself and then we gonna get into this. Let's go, baby.
My name Willie Lumpkin, A.K.A. Adiyon, A.K.A. The fuck 'em up,
Okay.
A.K.A. Mythwick. If
Okay.
y'all don't know what Mythwick, that's my new tag.
Okay.
That means motherfucker, what's in charge?
Ooh, okay, that's what I'm talking.
Mythwick, yeah.
Spit that again one more time for that.
Mythwick, motherfucker, what's in charge?
Man, that's what I'm
You know
talking
what I
about.
mean? I've been through a lot. Right here, what we talking about, and again, I like to thank the brothers for pulling me in on this. Anything positive,
Appreciate it.
especially that can reach out to the youth, so
Facts.
that they don't take the same path we took. You know what I mean?
Facts.
I did a bid, caught my bid in 2007. Um, Truth be told, it was one of the worst bids that you can go to prison for, and that was murder.
Okay.
My original charge was first degree murder, felony murder.
Okay.
They tried to give me life plus 25.
Damn.
Yeah, that's what the DA tried to give me, and I'm sitting back here by the grace of the Lord, above all things. Caught it in 2007 down in Atlanta. It's crazy because how I caught the bid was a friend of mine who actually moved down to Atlanta. He introduced me to somebody. He said that we can bring on board with us. And I went to go meet the guy. I didn't really feel his vibe. I didn't think it was something that we could have did together. So,
What do you mean by bring on board with y'all?
well, we was moving and shaking music. You know what I mean? Movies, things like that. Just trying to get into the music industry. So,
Okay.
you run with a few solid people. I only try to keep solid people around me. You know what I mean? And I thought that he was solid. My man, he from my block, Inner Park and Fillmore. I have no problem saying his name. His name is Lonnie Salters. He told on me. Real
Okay.
shit.
All right. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Put that.
Yeah. So, you know, one thing led to another. I ended up protecting myself and shooting the guy. He subsequently passed away, which I'm very remorseful for.
How did that happen? How did the scene set out?
Well, the guy, he was drunk, high. We had been drinking, and the guy, you know, pulled his pistol out on me. You know.
How did that make you
They,
feel at that time?
well, they got so many stories. Like him telling he never had a gun. They removed the gun off the scene. They said he didn't have a gun. So, they tried to make it seem like I killed the guy in cold blood. They tried to give me life plus 25, but I did eventually cop out to manslaughter and got 8 years.
Okay. All
Got eight
right.
years.
Then
You
you
know
did
what I mean?
you did that 8 years in
Georgia.
Atlanta? In Georgia?
Yeah, in Georgia.
Before we jump into that prison system, you said bring this guy on and
Mm-hmm.
before doing a bid, you never did a bid before the
No.
situation happened. So, before doing this bid, it's like, our antennas be down. But you always felt like your antennas on because you said you
Absolutely.
felt that this wasn't gonna be a good fit.
Well, all the guy talked about was if I wanted somebody taken care of, what he'd do. Never talked about how we can raise any money or nothing about music or anything like that. So I told, my dude that the dude wasn't our blood type. What I mean by my blood type is if you and me get into a situation and you need blood, I should be able to give it to you. You understand?
Facts.
I should be able to give you that blood. So if we not the same blood type, then we can't give each other blood in a given situation. So in other words, I felt the dude wasn't a good fit for us. And eventually it came to be that, and I don't need no big crowd. I prefer the great company. And I didn't think that this
Facts.
guy would be great company for us. You know what I mean? So I don't need no big circles and things like that. Give me great company, keep the big crowd. And that's just one of the models I always operated under. Keep the big crowd, give me great company. And, again, the dude came at me 3 times, I shot him. Again, which I'm very remorseful for.
But he forced you.
You know what I mean? Absolutely, I had to protect and defend myself. So
Right.
which I pray nobody have to ever find themselves in. It is definitely how can I put it? The experience was numbing. It was very numbing, and while I was in prison, I would talk to younger youths about how they got into prison and my journey through prison. Um, again, this is why this platform is very important to me and dear to my heart, because this is what I want to do. I want to be able to reach the younger youth in our communities and let them know this is not, I repeat, this is not the path you want to take.
Not a road at all you want to take.
Not at
I
all.
always say, man, I wouldn't wish prison on my worst enemy, man.
Absolutely.
At all.
It's very prison. One thing, prison is close to post-traumatic stress. Um, the reason being is you're dealing with so many personalities, people with mental health, and you're in the same environment. So you become adapt to that type of environment where now you got to have a shank on you, knife, whatever the system calls for, and you may not be a violent person, but because of that environment, you have to adapt to certain changes in that environment. You got gangs. Where I was at, you had a lot of Mexican gangs, a lot of Bloods, Crips, and I myself am Muslim.
Okay.
And the crazy part about it is, in prison, I became the imam, which is the leader of the Muslims. So it was like, I would always, no matter what prison they moved me to, I would let the warden and the staff know we're not running Islam like a game, because Islam is not a game.
Not at all.
So if you go to prison and you become Muslim and the Muslims are moving like gang members, then that is not Islam.
At all.
Because true Islam is about peace. That's what the word Islam means. And so I would always, move as a Muslim, upright and righteous.
Like you're supposed to. Now, let's rein it in. When you first, got locked up and, and passed the lockup, passed the lawyer, passed everything. When you first realized you was about to go and do this time and they finally locked you up and sent you, what was the first, how does that process work in Atlanta? Like, what was their process of bringing you up?
Well, actually, I ran for 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I was on the run for 2 years. I was on America's Most Wanted. I ran for almost 2 years. Feds, marshals, and the detectives were looking for me. Feds raided a couple houses in and out of state. Here, Georgia, I believe down in North Carolina, and a couple of other places looking for me. I want to make this clear. I wasn't running to duck the situation. I ran to try to raise money for lawyer fees and these type of things.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So, while I was on the run, it was so many things that I contemplated. Because of my charges, I really contemplated having shootouts with the police. Instead of spending the rest of my days in prison, which was the thought at that time that I had, that I would be spending the rest of my days in prison, and I would prefer to be dead than to spend the rest of my days in prison. And these thoughts crossed my mind. Should I have a shootout with the police if they catch me? And to be honest with you, I did have an illegal pistol at the time, and actually subsequently gave it away maybe a week before they caught me. And I thank the Lord for that.
That was a blessing.
I thank the Lord for that, because had I had it, maybe things would have been different. So I want to expound on that. You never want to be put in a situation where your thought processes changes, because now today I'm sitting here. At the time, I thought I wouldn't ever be sitting free again.
Yeah, that's definitely right. That was a blessing in itself to
Absolutely.
get rid of that. So, like I said, when you was coming through, when he finally did get you,
Mm-hmm.
and they finally did, how was Atlanta? Because in Buffalo, when you, not Buffalo, but New York State, you go through like a reception first. You go
Right.
through Wendy, then you go to Elmira. Does Atlanta prison system work like that? Or they send you
yes,
straight to the
it
jail?
does. They have reception. Jackson is a reception. I was actually locked up with Brian Nichols. It's crazy. The system there is totally different. I tell a lot of young youths from New York State, they ain't got no shanks in Georgia. They got lawnmower blades, shit that go through you. Ain't no plane, ain't no So your movements could cost you your life. Ain't no cutting the face. We talking lawnmower blades, large pieces of steel like this, and they going through you. So going through reception. You go to Jackson State Prison. You may be there for upwards of 2 weeks to 3 weeks, but I actually was there for 6 months, longer than normal. And you go there, you stay there, and then they ship you to the prison that you're going to, which was for me a level 5 camp, one of the worst prison systems in Georgia, which was Macon State.
Oh man.
Yeah, yeah.
That's,
So it's real. It's definitely heavy. It's definitely something you don't want to go through.
how did the officers treat you?
I mean, to be honest with you, and let's kick it. It's different there. I had a cell phone the whole time I was there. A lot of the officers actually know that the prisoners run the prison. It wasn't where they were always on your back. They were keeping 100, man. Everybody looking to make money. And
Everybody.
so were they. Everybody looking to make money. They would take phones in one dorm and go to the next dorm and sell them. This type of shit, real shit.
How old were you? How old were you when you went to prison?
33.
33.
33 years old. They got all of my 30s on me.
Okay, so being, that's being older. That's actually,
Yeah.
and most dudes go to prison in their teens, stuff like
Right.
that. So, building that time and going to jail at 33. Did you have any misconceptions about prison that was like, when you first went in, that you was nervous about, that you was like, damn, this really this might happen. And then when you got there, it was like, oh shit, this is for real, for real.
Yeah, no, you hit it right on the nose. I wouldn't call it nervous, but by it being my first time in prison, watching certain movies and listening to the stories that people that went to prison told and came back, they always let you know, you might have to fight the biggest dude, these type of things. So I was ready to implement any of that, but it wasn't like that. Truth be told, it really wasn't like that. It really was. As long as you mind your own business, you didn't steal nothing, you didn't take nothing from anybody. It wasn't too many issues outside of gangs.
Okay.
Now, by the gangs being involved, they would rob, steal, stab, these type of things.
Oh, okay. So, in that first couple years of prison, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you find yourself in any situations that was like, man, that you knew you could have avoided, but because of, just coming to the system and, not having the background of, what's going on, you was a little, might have been late to situations that was popping up, or understand that, this is a situation that's about to happen, I can avoid this. So did you put yourself in anything of that matter?
I can't say that I've put myself wholeheartedly in any of those situations, but I've had altercations. Like I said, I move the way I move. I always move with respect. I never took nothing from anybody in prison. Never disrespected anybody. That to the best of my ability. If I did something or offended anyone, again, you got to remember I'm Muslim. So if I offended you, there's no problem with coming to talk to me. And if I offended you, I have no problem apologizing. Not because I'm scared, but because that's what men do. So I can't say that wholeheartedly that I think in my 8 years I probably had 2 altercations where I had to put hands on people. And one was because one guy stole a shank from me. And in shank, that's your life.
It's your life.
Now, no bullshit. Down in Georgia, your shank is your life. And he said he didn't steal it. Again, at the time, I was the imam of the Muslims. We were like 200-300 strong. And he was a GD. And the guy who was the head of the GD was actually a good friend of mine. So we were able to, me and him, lock in the cell and do what we did and piece it out like that. But it almost turned into a big war, to the point where I had to get on a conference call with the Muslims in other prisons, because this almost spread to other prisons. I had to get on a conference call with the GDs, actually, I believe in Detroit, about this guy. So I think they violated him, whatever they did, but it almost turned into a big war that went from different prisons. Had this conference call not taken place, and if the Muslims moved, if we would have moved on them, or if they moved on us, you know what I mean? So we, me and him just went in the cell and did what men did, and it was over.
Man, that's the best way. Detrimental. You save bids and save lives.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Well, speaking of the gangs, you see, the gang thing in New York State is like for most dudes is their lives. Like a lot of dudes that come to prison and join a gang is like the thing of security or the thing of the way of the movement to move. And some dudes just be, you know what I mean, it's all for fashion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what their whole world is about. In Atlanta, how did they run their gangs? Was it all for fashion or did you have to put on?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I believe, in my opinion, that the gangs are some of the biggest causes of violence in the prison system because you have so many different factions and the gangs are the ones stealing and robbing. To be honest with you, I've probably seen it with my own eyes at least 4 or 5 people be killed.
Explain one of those.
Well, there was one guy who stole a cell phone from Blood, and I believe he was either GD or Crip. This is no bullshit. They locked the doors with towels, so the guards couldn't come in, and stabbed him up
Right there?
right there in front of the guard station. Killed him. Killed him. Killed him.
Was that the worst one you seen while you was locked up?
It was so many, man. To be honest with you, I've seen so many stabbings without murder, but I've seen stabbings with murder. So to be honest with you, in any of the prison systems in Georgia, your movements can affect your whole life. Cause it ain't no hitting you with no box cutter, no can top. It's shit going through you. It's shit going through you. So whenever it was war for real. It wasn't no how can I put it? You know, you couldn't even walk to chow without having a security detail or, you know, things like that. But the gangs,
What do you mean by a security detail?
shit, you had to walk with 4 or 5 people. You can't even go to lunch. You know, everybody had a detail, even the Muslims. And it's crazy because as a Muslim, we had to conform to that prison system without being a part of the gang, but still considered by staff to be gangs because of the movements to make sure that we preserved our own life. It's been many times a Muslim have an altercation and my life would be somewhat in jeopardy because I was the leader of the Muslims, the imam. And that was something that I dealt with throughout most of my bid because most of the places I went, I was either the imam, assistant imam, or on the shura board, which is part of the leadership of the Muslims. So one of the things that a lot of the gangs like to do is target the head. You know, you've heard that expression, kill a head, the body will die.
That's a fact.
And they actually operate, the gangs do, on that type of system. You know what I mean? So if one gang member did something, it was like they all did it. If one Muslim did something, it was like we all did it. And the move like that. So the movement down there wholeheartedly can cost you your life. Real shit.
You know, and a lot of dudes don't really open up to this. So I'm gonna ask you, I mean, and I know you're gonna keep it real with me.
Absolutely.
Living like this, like really living in it, like we be believing that we was in the field before, that before in our past, that before prison, that you know we was in the field. Now when you come to a situation that you living in like this, where, man, in a blink of eye you could lose your life on some savagery. How did you feel about that? Like, what was the core waking up to this? Was it no, like, what was the feeling of your expression inside?
Believe it or not, that's a great question because the time that most people in prison feel safest, and this is my opinion again, you don't want to go to the hole. But when you go to the hole, you're in the cell by yourself or one more individual. You ain't dealing with the whole community. Believe it or not, some people may feel, and I felt at times, you safer in the box than you are in the general population, which is not a good thing for the psyche. When you in that type of environment, and you can ask most people who've been to prison, you don't eat with your back to the door. Anytime you go to the mess hall, you eat up against the wall, or somebody is watching. If you're not eating with your back against the wall, depending on where you rank in either the gangs or the leadership, most people watching out for you, and you're watching their back if they're sitting towards the door. And everybody got knives in Georgia. I don't know about here. I've never did a bid here in New York State, but everybody got knives in Georgia. So what that does to you is it makes you conscious of your movement for the most part. That if you don't have your knife on you, if you can't take your knife in the mess hall, you got to stash it outside. Why? And then while you in there eating, somebody watching your knife outside,
Serious.
holding your knife, and then you got to watch for random. The shit was like really like being in a concentration camp. And again, I don't mean to compare that to the Jewish concentration camp. So I want to be careful with that. What I mean is the system where you was almost back on the street in some type of military setting where you were dealing with martial law, the 13, or I don't know what y'all call them up here, but we call them like the Doom Squad.
Yeah, the black gloves.
Dudes with the black, right?
Yeah, they
with
come
the black suits and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at any time you worried about running the tour, up against them, because at any time they put you on the wall, stretch you out, make you pull down right on the sidewalk, right in general population, coffin squat, all that shit.
Right there in general population.
Right there, coffin squat.
Strip you.
Man, listen, and they ain't supposed to do that. You know that.
That's a fact.
They don't give a fuck about no women being around, none of that. Violating your rights, they don't give a fuck. That shit don't count, man. Pull your motherfucking pants on right now or get beat up and go to hole.
You see anybody refuse that?
Absolutely, many times.
What's
many
up?
times.
What was the situation? She's might refusing. It was just like, damn, I wish he'd have just complied.
Well, you can actually Google this. I was at Macon State. Forgot the warden name. Short black dude with glasses. They actually killed one of the guys in my dorm. He I think he punched the warden in the jaw. You can actually Google this at Macon State, I believe. I want to say this is like 2010.
Okay.
Man, they killed that boy, man. 13 killed him.
Right there in front of everybody.
You can Google this. This was on the news. I believe it was on CNN. All that. They killed him for punching the warden in the jaw. I think he wired the warden's jaw. Don't hold me to that. I'm just telling you the details that I can remember vaguely. But they killed that boy, man. They killed him. Real shit. You can Google that. That ain't no prison story to where a motherfucker talking about some shit. That shit was on CNN.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah. So it was like it's basically your mentality changes in prison. And I'm quite sure anyone who's been in prison will tell you this. Because now you convert from living in society where you may have to, in certain communities, watch yourself, but being in a prison system where your life is always on the line, even if you didn't do nothing but live, but aware and conscious that somebody can want to get you just to take your damn commissary. You know what I mean? Gives you a mental awareness that a heightened, I should say, awareness that you might not have had in the street. So they actually making your condition worse, being in them environments.
Now, being an imam of a community, that means that you're responsible for the community.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? You're responsible for every brother, no matter status, how high he is, what crime he committed, whatever he done did, you're responsible for him. That didn't feel like a pressure? Because you have to be responsible for everybody's not just because Muslim, whatever, doesn't mean that your mind is at the aptitude to be, a man. So did the pressure with that ever feel like, this is a lot?
No, it definitely was always a lot because you would have those people that you just talked about joining Islam for protection. You had GDs joining Islam. You have Bloods thinking that they can be Muslim and be Blood. You had, Crips, the whole nine. So in Islam, it is not up to us to make Muslim. Allah make Muslims.
Facts.
So we can't tell someone that they can't become Muslim. What we have the right to do as a Muslim is to judge their character. Now, I don't mean judge as in you going to hell or heaven. I mean judge by observing, he's still throwing up gang signs and these type of things. So it is a lot of pressure because these people will still be throwing up gang signs. And on a couple occasions, I would have to send people to the hole. Literally. Like, go to the hole. Don't come back out on compound.
Now, explain a situation where something like that happened.
Well, one guy, he was Blood.
Okay.
And, he was a high-ranking member of the Bloods. And he became Muslim.
Okay.
There's somewhere in their organization, because believe it or not, a lot of these organizations have implemented some form of Islam into their culture and be it in a big form or a small form. And they're under the beliefs that they can serve two gods. And in Islam, that's impossible. It is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you serve. And you can't serve Allah and then say, if your leader tells you to commit it, to do something that especially goes against Islam, that would be okay. So that nullifies the Islam.
Okay. So what was he doing that made y'all go to him and tell him he had to go to the hole?
Throwing up gang signs, robbing, these type of things. And in Islam and in the prison system, I to be honest with you, I was trying to the utmost of my ability to implement Sharia law. And I don't mean far as, chopping hands and heads, but if you stole, we was putting your hand in that locker and we were smashing it, or in the door and smashing, and you was going to the hole for stealing. One of the things that I tried to do to keep down violence was, if a Muslim took anything, then you don't have to get the Muslim. The other gang members or other members in society come to me as an imam, and if he did wrong and you could prove, I'm not saying we just will punish a Muslim. We don't do that. With proof. If you have proof that this Muslim took from you, then we would punish him. So in that way, that keeps down the war. That keeps down, turmoil within the community and in the prison system. And believe it or not.
So basically, sacrifice one to save a million.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But within the parameters of Islam.
Okay. So, I was going to ask you about that. Was it ever a situation where you had to implement Sharia law against a brother that you felt a connection with?
Absolutely. It's crazy. I still remember this brother. His what's his brother name? He was real close to me, but he was stealing, he was robbing, and he was definitely real close to me. I sent him to the hole. It's so crazy because once I got free, I actually talked to this brother, and he said he was doing pretty good. I think his real name is Jamar.
Did you have to punish him to send him to the hole?
Yeah, I had to give him lashes. What we do is we would tie 2 shower shoes together.
Okay.
We would literally tie them together, hold him down against the bed, and in Islam you're permitted to give lashes. So we would, in front of everybody, pull your shirt up. Now, I'm not saying that this was in accordance to prison law, and give them lashes on their back. We did that. Real shit. If we're going to keep it 100, we did that.
Nah, that's understandable. And I mean, if you have to do that to make sure that he doesn't destroy, other men's life. Because that's, I learned in prison myself is that the men that's around you is you find out who really care for you. And you find out when a man really treats you like his brother if he doesn't allow you to get put in his bull. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If he don't allow, if he look at certain things, is because you will go for your brother with no ands, ifs, buts about it. But then you would mess your own self up by being in a box and adding on to your bed for something that could have been prevented because of their carelessness. So I always say the man next to you, if he really cared for you, he always gonna think for you before he think for himself.
Absolutely.
So if that's punish him in a form of fashion that you had to do, man, some people might say it's negative, but it's prison.
No, that's I wanted to expound on that with you because many times from assistant imams or people on the shura board, they would say to me, when I was the imam, that it wasn't right to parade the brother in front of the general population so they could see it. We should keep Muslim business. Islam is not private. All right, so I'm not one of the uneducated Muslims. I ain't the best of Muslims, but I ain't the worst. Islam is not private. What this did, and we're speaking practical. So I practice practical Islam, but within the parameters of Islam. If the general population see what we would do to the Muslim, keeping in mind, we're not speaking of the upright Muslim. We're speaking of the thieving Muslim, the gang member Muslim, the Muslim who was jacking his dick to a female CO.
Horrible.
Islam does not accept these type of behaviors if you call yourself Muslim. So what this would do, if the people seen this, so I agree that people would see it negative. But when the people see me implementing this type of action, then that kept down the bullshit because they would come to me and say, yo, the brother did this. So they knew what this did was that they would not get him.
That's a fact.
And they knew they can come to me if he did wrong. Again, keeping in mind that they could prove this brother did this. They knew that I would implement that and keep down all the bullshit. Let's deal with it as it is.
And if I'm going to implement this against my brother, what will I do against you?
Absolutely.
So that also send a double message. And in prison, you absolutely need that.
Absolutely.
Hey, yo, listen, man, this is part 1 right here, man, the brother Willie Lumpkin. Man, what was the A.K.A. you gave?
Man, Adiyon, shit to fuck him up. Mifwick, MF, what is it? What's in charge? WIC, Mifwick.
All right,
Motherfucker, what's in charge?
That's a fact. We about to do this part 2. If you tuning in right now, if you on it, man, subscribe, hit that notification bell,
Absolutely.
man. We absolutely building right now.